sanctuary if you're ready tonight. I know that it's all so heavy. Won't you let me inside? 'Cause I could be your sanctuary.
What's up guys, hope everyone is doing well. In today's video I'm going to be going over some updates for Bitcoin, then I'm going to be going into the stock market in form of the New York Stock Exchange, and then I'm going to go over a handful of altcoins. But to go ahead and get it started here, the first thing that I want to quickly go over here on this weekly chart for Bitcoin is I just want to fixate our attention here on the previous macro bottom of 2018 to 2019, when we finally got the reversal up towards this black 350 daily moving average band right here. We started to print our red vector candles leading into the top of it. Then we got our turquoise once we started to break through and find that strength towards the upside. And then comparing that to where we are now, right over here, finding our support again along the exact same range we did back here with the 350 daily moving average band. Now we're back up towards the black band towards the top of it, just as we were back here. And if I were to drop our time frame down, I'm not sure if the 4 hour or the 4 day is gonna be enough here. It's not. Let's see, let's just go down to the daily. So whenever we finally got this move towards the upside, I'm gonna more clearly go over this here in just a moment, but what we saw here was basically we see this flagpole right here, then we see this M kind of acting as an ascending flag basically. Then we continue to move up. We did the same thing right here. We made our pole, then we made an M and continue to move towards the upside. As you can see, if I were to go back quickly to where we are currently, I believe that is essentially what we are doing again here, having this flagpole, this ascending flag basically there. And if you actually are to look up an ascending bull flag, for the most part, most websites are likely to say that it's more so of a negative thing to see, that it's going to eventually break towards the downside. But at the end of the day, I think the way that a pattern in terms of its price is going to break really just depends upon the macro sentiment of the market. And right now, given that I believe it's pretty clear that we've set the low, I mean, for all we know, at the end of the day, we could get it going lower than the current bottom at around 15.345 thousand. I don't personally think that is the most likely at this point. There's plenty of things that indicate the fact that we have, find it eventually, this right here, which I posted this on my community tab the other day. In this box, we just have 10 things to strengthen, affirm the indication that we have set our bear market low at approximately 15.5 thousand. We have, with what's currently laid out right here, we've seen a bullish impulse towards the downside. We can also look at it as a 7-wave impulse, which that's not technically a textbook thing, but it's kind of something in my book that I look at, which should be according to this. So we still get this ABCD pattern, or this lightning bolt pattern towards the downside, but instead of it going along with the way this turquoise pattern is, we form an M down here, and then we eventually W out basically, because again, I quickly go over it. You can see W's form like this with an M in between, with the two bottoms of the M itself being the actual double bottom of the W there. And then likewise for the M's, you can sometimes see a W form at the top. And then we will actually, once we set that second high as for that W, then we start to initiate the downside of that M pattern. But outside of that, we are also seeing something that I'm kind of gonna, I guess I don't know if I'm coining it, but I haven't seen it anywhere basically, and it's what I have. So it's the second one down here, this falling wedge bull flag, or kind of, you can think about it as an inverse bull flag, because what I mean by that is, so basically our price action all the way down here, and then we've been ranging in this pretty much falling wedge, and we'll eventually, as we have, breakout right here, and then I believe into the next bull market, we could just maybe see a relief rally similar to, it's not on this chart, but similar to how we got after the previous bottom towards, I think it was like 14,000, then we went into the March crash. But I personally think we're going to be entering in the next major bull market again we'll see very, I believe, similar price formation going back to March all the way to this double top that we set. We'll basically see the kind of the repeat of this, given that where we are in the overall macro phase cycling of Bitcoin. And again, if you're new to my content, the first card of this video will have me more elaborately going over what I mean in terms of my phase cycling and my cycle theory when it comes to Bitcoin, but I'll kind of be going over that at some point. I'm going to be pretty thoroughly going over Bitcoin in this video, breaking down the price harmonics going back to the previous cycle. But something I also find very interesting here is we're getting a pretty massive triangle right here, just overall on this kind of low, or this bear market we've set, which I just find kind of interesting. It kind of, I mean, it obviously just factors into this inverse bull flag of this falling wedge that we've seen basically. But outside of that, the major thing to point out here is how we've broken above this yellow trend line, which is a 16-month resistance, and is a part of those 10 things, those 10 boxes I had in that text box previously shown. But we see breakout right here into this ascending bull flag, with the flag having a aim towards the upside. Also posted this on my community tab, this flag that we're seeing right here. We could likely kind of see some just wavering towards the upside, similar to how we did back here. Then we'll get this drop, and then we'll actually reverse up out of here. But if I quickly go to this hour time frame, I've seen quite a number of people pointing out basically an ascending triangle bull flag right here that we could potentially be seeing with this being the flag. We'll consolidate right here and then break out earlier than what I just mentioned, and what you can clearly see on this chart if we stagger up a little bit, and then we get another final drop down to around like 22.5 or so, which would line up roughly, I believe, around this 800 EMA as the price continues to go and progress out here towards the future. But let's see here, going back to this chart right here. Again, right now it's very pivotal to see price break through 25,000, 25.5 thousand, lining up with this 800 EMA right here. That is really the major thorn in the side of Bitcoin's price right now. If we do get this drop right here, falling below essentially 22 to about 22.5 thousand will likely initiate a drop down to the 60-month resistance of this trend line at around 19,000 approximately or so. If we start to lose 19,000 again, could likely come down and test essentially our previous lows right here, ranging from around 15.5 to around 16.5 thousand. And if we lose that, obviously around 12, just approximately 12,000, give or take $1,000, would be the next area we would continue to go. But to get into the major update that I want to go over here for Bitcoin, before I get into going over thoroughly the price harmonics, going back to this previous, so this second phase of our last cycle, because if I go back all the way to right here, I mean, you could call it, yeah, well, honestly, I'll just go ahead and quickly go over this. So basically what we could see right here is, we'll see something like this. Basically, what we're seeing is kind of just like a bull flag, essentially. I'm not saying these are textbook bull flags, but I'm just kind of, the main idea that's going to be got across here as I go throughout Bitcoin's past price history is that it's clearly identifiable once Bitcoin hits its macro bottom, that it's essentially just a sequential iteration of bull flags over a period of time. You might see a falling wedge bull flag, an ascending triangle bull flag, horizontal flat bull flag, or the ascending bull flag, like I mentioned in the previous chart. But then we see this breakout right here, we get another breakout, we consolidate right here. This one would be more of an ascending triangle bull flag, and then we get our final breakout right here. And then again, honestly, you could just look at this as another bull flag, just consolidating. This one, I would say, would rather be more towards, leaning towards a symmetrical one. Then we get our final breakout right here, leading into the overall top that we set for that first phase of cycle 2, starting at around $32 for Bitcoin. Then we enter this phase 2 bear market right here, again on the second cycle. We make this massive ABC towards the downside, then we go sideways, which again, this would be another version of an inverse bull flag. This time we get is just bull flag leading into sideways, and then we break towards the upside right there. Then what we're led into is we see right here an ascending bull flag, ascending triangle bull flag. What we did here is we got a minor breakout, came back and retested essentially this what was resistance, flipped it into support, and they continued to carry on out towards the actual price target of this pattern right here, ranging approximately in this area. Then what we could get right here is what I noted. Obviously this looks nothing like a bull flag. Again, I'm not saying these are bull flags, but what I'm trying to do is, and what I'm trying to get across with this analysis that I'm doing, again, like I said, a sequential bull flag-esque formation, how you'll essentially just see price move up and then you'll see it consolidate. What you're looking at right here would be kind of an ascending bull flag. We get this consolidation, we break towards the upside, and what you'll clearly begin to see is you'll see price. This is the best one to point it out with. You'll see price move up right here, and then it'll make an M, and then it'll go back towards the upside again, going back to the M patterns that I have up here. If you just look at price as an alternation of M's and W's, like for example, I'll go ahead and quickly do it right here. So right here we can see we get our initial drop, and then we see this M right here. M's are going to be bullish, and then we break towards the upside like this. But then as you can clearly see, once we make this M right here, we actually get a smaller W, and we got to finish that towards the upside. So now what we've formed is a W, so now we're going to see a break towards the downside. So I'm going to draw it like that. And what you can see going back to this point right here is you see an M with a W in it going all the way down towards the downside. So if you can clearly see that right there. Again, that goes back to these types of M's and W's that you'll see right here. Go ahead and draw it out again. You'll see an M form with a W leading into the two peaks, and then you'll get that breakout towards the downside, and then as so for the W's as well. So quickly to summarize, what we saw right here was an inverse horizontal flat bull flag leading into these sequential, again, you can put it like in quotations, bull flags, leading all the way up to the final top that we got up here in 2017 in approximately 20,000. Also, something you'll clearly see throughout this is, and similar to the already pointed out like bull flag with the M drop that you'll see, and then you'll see it finally go back up towards the upside. If you look at this dotted pathway right here, so a lot of the times what you'll see is you'll see basically an ABCD pattern, then it'll go in towards an M, and then it'll finally go back towards the upside, which what I just do right there is what happened from the breakout of this bull flag. We went up, made this ABC or ABCD pattern, and we had this final M drop. Again, M is going to be bullish. You're going to buy its lows, and then you're going to break out into a W. So I'm going to go ahead and trace it. So what we see right here is an M. We see right there. So if you start from the second pivot point, what we get is a W, and then it's going to continue to sequentially alternate M to W to M to W, etc., so on and so forth. What we see right here, again, starting from this below, we see an ABCD pattern or a lightning bolt, and then we see an M, and then we make our final jolt towards the upside right here, leading into that bull market high. All right, so what I want to point out for this bear market was I have it drawn out right here. So what we'll clearly see is, so right now we're beginning at this top right here, going into price action from this point onward towards our current time, started the third cycle of Bitcoin, this being the first phase that we're still in. We're about like 3/4 through for the first phase right now. But what I want to point out with respect to this phase specifically is what you see right here. So basically you'll see a drop in price, and then you'll see two M's form, and then either, depending upon where you are, whether or not you find support and you bounce towards the upside, or you get rejected, which is what had happened right here. So we get a drop towards the downside, we see two M's form, price literally went sideways, as you can see right here, for a while, and then it eventually got rejected. We set our double bottom right here. You could also, again, kind of just break this down into, you see this ABC, and then you see an M, and then you break towards the upside again. That goes back to what I was showing back here with this yellow dotted pattern, but again, this would be flipping it upside down, is basically what we see right here, outside of how I was going over it previously. So once we set this double bottom right here and this ranging low right here, which I'm gonna go ahead and zoom out real quick, goes back to the previous right here back in July 2017, was also for the March crash, and is also what's lined up with our current lowest low. Then right here begins these sequential bull flags. Each of these were essentially ascending bull flags. We get our final break right here. Again, we'll see our M breakout. We see another M. Then we hit our final high right here of this intermediate relief rally high. We set a double top. Then we continue just to stagger towards the downside here. Then we get to our March crash. Right here, it wasn't really as clear. I think I already have it drawn out on one of these charts. It's on here, I believe. So if I were to go back to the March crash, you can see again kind of what we're getting here is basically, again, a bull flag right there. That's essentially what we are getting. We got this breakout right here, and then we just continued to consolidate sideways until we got another breakout. So actually, we can compare this right here a lot too. So moving up and getting this consolidation, breakout, partially come down and retest this, basically this, what was resistance now turned in support, which goes back to this chart again. So again, comparing the movement after the March crash, that's basically what we saw right here. We saw price move up again, consolidate like this, had a partial breakout, came back and retested this area right here to find support. And again, once more, that is what we saw. We'll find it eventually. What we saw right here. It's essentially the same thing. You could even look at this as an ascending triangle roughly as well down here. Seeing it do like that, consolidate, get a partial break, come down and we test that to find support. And eventually, once we found that support, we broke out right here towards this most recent bull run. We again see something similar right here, move towards the upside, see an M. Could look at that as a kind of just ascending bull flag if you wanted to find continuation there. But to get back to this chart right here, to continue kind of showing these very, very vast, I mean, it essentially, each of these bull markets are forming nearly like identically. So as I just got done comparing this to the to how things moved after the 2015 bear market, again, we saw that increase, ascending triangle bull flag, partial breakout, retest. Then we get our final break towards the upside, beginning this next bull market right here, which then leads us into our most current price formation. So this right here, this blue pattern lines up right here. And what I want to point out again is how we saw back here with these downsides, 2 M's, we broke towards the downside. This time right here was different, as you can clearly see here on this drawing out, this draw out over here. We had our top right here at 64,000, lines up right here. We come down, we see, as you can see here, there's 2 M's, which lines up with the price action right here. I'll go ahead and zoom in on it and more clearly show you. What we see is a drop. We see 2 M's form right here. This time, instead of being rejected towards the downside, we saw this move towards the upside to set this final double top for this bull market. Then we began this downside right here, which, as I've been saying, this is pretty much what happened in leading into the 2014-2015 bear market. Because if I go all the way back here, what you'll see is you see this more massive ABCD pattern right here, but it more clearly lines up. You see this ABCD, then we see an M right here form, and that is quite literally exactly what we get right here. See an ABC, D, and then we get this M, then we break towards the upside. It's either a bullish 5 wave towards the downside or a bullish 7 wave towards the downside. Just depends upon how you end up drawing out. Either or, it doesn't really matter. They mean the same thing. And then outside of that, again, I just have this drawing right here. So this M and then this yellow. This is what lines up over this right here. Let's go ahead and draw it again. So what we see right here is this right here leading into that. But more clearly what we see is, in general, it's just a double bottom leading towards the upside. Again, with that M in between. Representing the 2 lows of the W or double bottom. But that was really all that I wanted to go over for kind of going through and thoroughly analyzing each of these, going back to this right here, and as I went all the way back to the pretty much the beginning of the second cycle. I mean, let's go back since they actually added the chart information on here. I mean, we could look at this as also kind of being the same thing. We see this flag consolidation, basically what we see here, type of bull flag, break towards the upside, and so what actually lines up. So this area, this whole area right here, my thing wants to draw, this whole area right here is actually what happened right here. This is the exact same phase. These are both the phase 2, what I have circled. Both of these portions are phase 2 of an overall Bitcoin cycle, but due to the logarithmic progression over time, it's going to have a rate of decay, which means that the cycles or the phases are going to lengthen, and then they're going to diminish in terms of seen downside and seen upside. But yeah, again, outside of that, that was really all that I wanted to go over. Again, main thing to take away from here is that we're kind of, I believe, clearly seeing this, we're seeing the beginning of these sequential bull flags that we see, as I just got done going over, every single time once we start a bull market. And what we are now seeing, I'll find it eventually, seeing our first one right here. So what I believe is what we're going to see is we're going to see our first bull flag right here. Then we're going to break up into this again. Like I said, what we're going to see is very, very self-similar movement from the March crash to this double top that we'll set, which will eventually ultimately end up looking something like this right here, which brings me to the last thing that I'm going to go over. So at this point, I believe, as I've been saying in general, 200 to 300,000 for, I believe, the next all-time high for Bitcoin, somewhere within that $100,000 range. Beforehand, though, I believe what we're going to see is we'll first see a movement towards 69,000. We'll have to find support there. Then we'll move to like 120 to 150,000, sit there for a little bit, find retracement. Then we'll move towards somewhere 200 to 300,000. But at this point, I believe that the first top is going to line up more around this 2.321 right here. So somewhere from around 205 to around 220,000 for this first top right here. At highest, I'd see it extending no higher than around 227,000 or so approximately. Then we'll see retracement, and then we'll see that double top formation, I believe, which will take us towards the high, more so being around 240 to 245,000. Again, it's going to be similar to what we saw back here for this previous double top. There was actually, there was one more thing that I wanted to go over, but it kind of slipped my mind real quickly. Oh yeah, that's what it was. So basically what we're seeing here is a big thing that I want to point out in this video is what, again, I mentioned it on my community tab, but slightly over just about a month ago, I was mentioning how on these lower time frames, so what we could see, basically what I'm going to point out right here is basically we see this flagpole, we see the flag form right here, and then we break towards the upside. We're seeing these bull flags on these right here. This is the hour time frame. We're seeing these bull flags on these lower time frames. And what I was saying is what we're going to see here is we're going to see these bull flags trickle into the higher time frames. So if I take this time frame up a little bit higher to the 2 weekly, before I do that, I'm gonna go to this daily chart. So again, we've seen this bull flag, as I mentioned, as I just got done showing on the hour chart. I could show it on the 4-hour chart as well, but we saw those bull flags in the hour and 4-hour chart. So now we're starting to see this bull flag, same type of bull flag, push into the daily chart. Now what we're gonna want to see here is we're going to want to see, I'm going to go back to the daily here. We're going to want to next see these bull flags push into like the 4-day to weekly chart. So right here, that's what we're going to look like, is something like this. So basically we're going to see an ascending type of bull flag pattern right there, and then we're going to break out. So I believe that's essentially what we'll see right here. Again, it's just kind of lining up with this fractal pattern. So whether or not we continue to go towards 30,000 from this point onwards and we don't see some sort of a retracement here, likely what we'll see is what I have right here. So we'll see that ascending bull flag with this M, and then we'll break towards the upside, again going back to the analyzation that I did, going all the way back to the previous cycle. But outside of that, just to quickly go over here in this hour time frame, we start to drop below around 23 to so 23.7 to 23.5 thousand. Likely we would come down and test this 800 EMA, which is around like 22.7 thousand. If we lose that, testing around 21.8, 21.7 thousand will be the bottom of this flag. Which if we did that, it would likely, if I had to guess, line up more so with how this is, this white fractal pattern that I have right here, which would test around, I think, like I may have said earlier on, around 22.3 thousand. But if we end up losing that, the next area is going to be more so around like 19.5 thousand. If we end up losing that, around like 17 to 16.5. If we end up losing that, I mean, next place will just be to test the actual previous lows we've set, as I've been mentioning, or maybe everything I've pretty much been going over so far is wrong, and we actually end up setting more lows down to like 13 to 11,000. Because, I mean, obviously anything here at this point is fair game, but I mean, well, on this weekly chart, you can obviously, we broke out of this 16-month resistance. We came down and retested it, and we've gotten a bounce so far. We are getting a very minor bearish divergence right here. We can see that right now, currently, the slope for this support right here, or this resistance, my bad, it was negative, whereas this resistance right here for price is positive. So we are seeing a minor bearish divergence there. Take a look at this MACD. I feel like it's consolidating very nicely. It would be fantastic if we continue to see, that is not what I clicked whatsoever. It would be nice if we continue to see the MACD kind of do something like this and then eventually break towards the upside here. Likely what we would see here is this price continuing to slowly move upwards, maybe even go sideways, and then it would finally break towards 28 to 32, 33,000 at the highest. I believe we could likely see it break above this band and find support on this band and then continue higher. That pretty much wraps up what I wanted to go over here for Bitcoin. Now if we move into the New York Stock Exchange, we are seeing price finally drop below this horizontal range that I was mentioning. We are getting, here on this 4-hour chart, we are seeing a pink vector printed right here. RSI being heavily oversold. We are essentially seeing right now, currently, if I were to draw a support line right here, I mean, we're essentially seeing positive support slope right here, whereas on here, we're basically seeing a negative support slope. So that could be, we could be seeing some hidden bullish divergence here, perhaps. We are going to continue to go up towards the upside here, and the stock market will continue to basically be coupled with Bitcoin, and both of them are going to continue to go up. I've been mentioning how I think the decoupling is going to start basically going into the next bull market. Not just because of what I see in the charts, but mainly because of how I just see the world and where it's going right now. And I think that we're really about to be thrusted into this whole blockchain adoption and integration, and really seeing it more integrated into society in terms of like how you pay for things at the grocery store or fast food, just obviously kind of just restructuring the fabric of peer-to-peer interaction and at a global social scale. But right now, next milestone to see here for the New York Stock Exchange, the stock market in general, is losing around 15.3, 15,000 really in general. If we continue to lose that, then go below 15,000, I believe that will confirm, likely, maybe, more likely so, not fully certain, but going down to this 12,000 area as I've been mentioning. But if we continue to go up from here, breaking through 17,000 would be probably very likely the nail in the coffin for this whole decoupling scenario that I could likely see playing out here soon. But to move into the altcoins now, here for XYO, really not much of an update to continue to go over for here. Realistically, and I'm sure most of you are already aware, every one of these altcoins are depending on Bitcoin, obviously. So if Bitcoin continues to go up, we're going to see these altcoins go up. But ever since XYO broke out of this symmetrical triangle right here, it's literally been going straight sideways, just because Bitcoin hasn't really been doing too much recently. But if we start to see XYO significantly drop below this 800 EMA, so basically we don't want to see price at this point go below around 0.0055. If we start to lose 0.05, or my bad, 0.005, that's likely going to, if I had to guess, the worst case scenario, initiate a retest of the current lows at around 0.003 approximately, which would likely line up with Bitcoin retesting its lows, or maybe even going lower, like I said, to like 12, 13, 11,000. But again, if Bitcoin, or my bad, if XYO continues to see it at some point, which I believe is more likely support in this range it's been going sideways in, we're going to see movement into 1.5 to 2.5 pennies, which just lines up with respect to Bitcoin, the consolidation that the entire cryptocurrency market saw from when Bitcoin was at 32 to 48,000. It's the next major milestone in terms of price resistance support areas that we'll see the price go to itself. Here on the XYO to Bitcoin chart again, just seeing the exact same thing here pretty much. Instead of we're seeing a falling triangle, falling wedge. We did see some pink vectors print right here to set in some local lows. We've seen essentially a bullish divergence, although the price hasn't really gone too high, whereas the RSI went rather high to rather oversold territory, so that could end up being a more so of a negative thing. But again, like I said, it really all just depends on Bitcoin right now. I personally believe that XYO and the rest of the market will continue to go up from here instead of going down, but at the end of the day, once more, who really knows what's going to happen. Here for Phantom, if we continue to go down here, worst case scenario, if we start to lose 43 cents, 40 cents approximately, that's likely going to initiate a drop down to around 36, 35 cents, lining up with this area right here in terms of price support, and also lining up with this 800 EMA right here. But if we continue to find support along this ascending range, I believe the next area that we'll likely head to is around $1.15. It's around $1 to $1.15. Afterwards on that. Here for JASMY, again, this is looking similar to Phantom, finding support along this a similar ascending range. Things are looking good right now. If we start to lose majorly 0.006, we could likely see a retest down to around 0.005. Worst case scenario, heading down to around 0.0036 to 0.0045. The next area the price likely is going to head to would be these three price targets right here. So as low as 0.008 to 0.012, so it's a little bit above a penny. The price is essentially pretty much already gotten there, so I wouldn't be surprised at this point it blows straight through that and continues to actually go higher from this point. But right now the key price to be looking out for is if it's going significantly below 0.006. Theta right here has been behaving very well recently. Again, we're kind of seeing a similar picture here with this ascending support that we've continued to bounce up from. If the fractal pattern is lining up nicely, which it has so far, we're going to see continued movement towards the upside, along with likely seeing it with Bitcoin, Phantom, XYO, the coins I've gone over so far. And we'll see Theta head towards around $1.40 to $1.60, and they continue a nice, pretty much straight upward shot for the most part here, towards the all-time highs that I've mentioned in previous videos here for Theta. Being one of the better movers in the market overall in terms of the last bull market. But here for TRIAS, we've continued to break out of this ascending, kind of almost triangular-esque formation we were doing right here. We hit this resistance right here along with this Fibonacci fan that I'm using. Continue to butt our heads right here. TRIAS has been behaving better than a lot of other altcoins. Right now, looking out here, we don't want to see the price significantly drop below around $2.60. Afterwards on that, that's what lines up with the 200 estimating moving average. After that, could maybe see a test back down to around $2, lining up with this median trend line and also the 800 EMA. Worst case scenario, if we start to lose $1.60, likely not going to be good for TRIAS. I didn't go, I don't think I went over it for, so okay, so I didn't go over it for THETA. So for THETA, if we start to significantly lose pretty much $1, it's likely going to initiate back down to around like approximately 90 cents. If we start to lose that, then we'll essentially begin to test the lows down to around 70 cents. Yeah, so that was the actual low. Again, that'd be worst case scenario. If we see Bitcoin see a major bear trap, or a bear trap back down to its previous lows, or worst case scenario, it sets newer lows than what it's already set. Here for Dogecoin, we are just continuing to see it trade upwards within this support range we've seen going all the way back to December of last year. We go back even further, that is essentially approximately where we saw the support right here for the bottom in October of last year. So we really don't want to see XYO, or my bad, not XYO, Dogecoin break below about 8 cents here. We might see it go a little bit lower than that, especially according to this fractal pattern right here. If we do start to lose 8 cents significantly though, if it does that and then it starts to significantly lose 7 cents, we're likely going to then retest the lows that it's already set, going I think all the way down to, it went down to around about 5 pennies and a half, 5.5 pennies or so, which again is just going to correlate with Bitcoin probably going down lower, seeing that bear trap, etc., as I've been mentioning. But right now, if we do see Dogecoin go upwards, breaking 10 cents to 11 cents is going to be the best case scenario there, and then pushing above 11, 12 cents will then initiate the next move upwards. Here for CRU, so these two these two white trend lines that we see right here, this is the macro resistance we had been seeing going all the way up to its highest price. We summoned a Bitcoin breaking out of its 16-month resistance, as I went over earlier, saw it break out. We're seeing this kind of almost falling wedge, or not falling wedge, this rising wedge, rising triangle formation. We are breaking below it right now, which isn't necessarily the best thing to see. We could see kind of like a fake out here, just drop a little bit down, maybe like this 200 EMA at around $1.64, $1.60, and they continue higher here, especially if Bitcoin continues to go higher here. But if we continue to drop down, we could likely come down and test this 800 EMA, essentially also along with this uppermost, what was resistance, would hopefully turn into support at around pretty much $1. But basically, if we start to see CRU here significantly lose $1, that's not going to be good. It's likely going to initiate a retest down to essentially 70 cents, which I believe, yeah, so I mean, yeah, 70 cents would be the upper range for this low range we set. Down at worst case scenario, testing pretty much approximately 50 cents. Again, once more, just to reiterate, would line up with Bitcoin, seeing that drop towards the downside here. But that pretty much wraps up everything that I really wanted to go over in this video. So hopefully you all were able to take away something from this. Hopefully that I painted a good picture when I was going over this macro picture that I was trying to point out here for Bitcoin, and going over the way that it clearly, I believe, kind of just starts to form pretty much the exact same in every single bull market reversal, kind of just seeing these sequential bull flags print until we finally see that final top. But outside of that, again, everything being said, hopefully enjoyed the content, and I hope you all have a blessed day.